What's up, everyone? Travis Holofka here again with the Human Upgrade Project. Episode number 7, technically number 8, because of episode 0, if you haven't seen that. So, whilst we doth waiteth for people to show upeth, this is why you want to jump on early if you see this and the recording, because you'll get the random squared of the day, the bizarre national holidays in the United States. And once again, if anybody sees this from somewhere else in the world besides the United States, please let me know what bizarre national holidays you have, or local holidays, or whatever, because I love that kind of stuff. It's just weird, nerdy stuff, right? So, today was National Piercing Day and Wear Purple for Peace Day. Did you partake in either of those? I did not. I guess it got close, but I just put this on not too long ago because when I'm working from home, I don't know, sometimes I wear nothing at all. No, I wear clothes, but a lot of times I'm just in shorts and that's it. And I haven't decided to come on a live yet with no shirt on, because that'd just be weird. But I may end up doing it at some point this summer, because I don't have AC in my office is upstairs in my place, and it gets a little warm sometimes. And depends on how lazy I am, because putting on a shirt takes a lot of effort. So, random squared for tomorrow. Tomorrow is National Pack Rat Day. That is tomorrow, as in May 17th. So, if you're a pack rat, rejoice in the fact that you have a day specifically for you. If you're not a pack rat, tomorrow's the day to become one. And if you are a pack rat, let's go back to that. If you are a pack rat, it's time to take your game up a notch. And why not become a hoarder? Because I'm sure there's a National Hoarder Day too that we'll get to eventually as we go through every day in the calendar year. So, with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. What are we at? About 3 minutes. I'll do that. I'll make like 3 to 5 minutes my random squared portion of this episode is sponsored by Random Squared. Random Squared is affiliated with the Human Upgrade Project, but does not receive any compensation for random squaredness. Because there is none. So, I'm going to have to think of another transition word, because I realize that I say the SO word a lot. Breaking it up a little bit, mixing it up a little bit tonight. Starting at before 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is just mind-boggling, really. But I'm moving closer and closer to daylight hours so that I can do this and have the evenings a little more open to do human upgrade things. So tonight's episode, conscious ignorance, and why it's good to have nerdy friends like me, if you're not nerdy yourself. But it's always good to have nerdy friends, no matter if you are nerdy or not. I love my nerdy friends. We get to nerd out on all sorts of things. So, what do I mean by conscious ignorance? Conscious ignorance. There's just regular ignorance, which, for lack of a better term, are stupid people. So, you ever heard the saying, there's never a stupid question? Well, there's also another saying that adds on to that says there's never a stupid question, there's just stupid people. So don't be a stupid people. That's the motto for this portion of tonight's episode. And it's not hard it's not hard to not be a stupid people. You just have to pay attention a little bit to the things going on around you and decide what you want to be ignorant about. Common sense. I've heard it's not so common anymore. So what do I mean by conscious ignorance? Conscious ignorance is something that I've practiced just unconsciously my entire life. And it's because I only focus on things that either impact me or the people around me or will affect something in my life that benefits me and will also, as a side effect, help benefit other people. I really, really enjoy helping people. So it's like, while I'm doing what I'm doing throughout my life, I'm always looking at how this will impact not just me, but the people around me. Because I think I've said this in another episode, right? The better you become, the better the people around you become, the better the world becomes. And yeah, maybe that's all airy-fairy, hippy-dippy, whatever, but it's what I think, and it's true because I think it. So it's true for me. So, conscious ignorance, a very, very good example of this. I got into powerlifting sort of by accident. And I'm going to repeat this. If you don't know what powerlifting is, it's just lifting as much weight as possible in squat, bench press, and deadlift. If you don't know what those are, use that thing called Google, and you can find out. It's lifting weights, basically. So I got into this by accident. I had a gym in my house that I had at the time, like forever ago, it seems like. And when I came back from, which country? New Zealand. When I moved back to the States from New Zealand, I didn't have a house anymore, and I didn't want to get a house. When I came back from New Zealand, I actually took all of my belongings, the things that that you have. If you walk into your closet, or you walk into your garage, or your basement, or your attic, and you look around, how many things in there are you actually using? And do you remember everything that's in there? So I took everything that I was like, oh, didn't realize I had that. Took all of those things along with a lot of other things, put them in the back of my truck, went to Goodwill, and gave them all away. That's a story for another time, but now I'm fairly minimalistic. So I needed a gym. I went and tried every gym in town, because since I was into powerlifting, I needed a place that would work for that. Found a place here in Fort Collins, Raintree Athletic Club, if you've heard of it. It's not a training facility. There's really only one of those in town right now. Elevate Barbell. If you're into powerlifting, check those guys out. So I joined the gym, right? And I am the only power lifter there. The only regular, let me clarify that, the only regular power lifter there. There were a couple that would come and go that had gyms at their house or whatever. Anyways, I progressed on my own, doing my own programming and everything else for my training because I had experience doing that. And I'd go in, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week. And during that process, I was getting stronger. And I remember the first time I ever pulled 500 pounds at the gym. It was, the funny thing was, so I go into the gym, I'm like just doing my thing, but I would get done lifting, especially like when I pulled 500, like everybody in the weight area had just stopped and they were just watching. And they thought it was like really awesome or whatever. I don't know what they thought, honestly. The funny thing is, even now when I pull 405, people are like, that's a lot of weight. And I'm like, one, compared to what? And why is that a lot of weight? And usually it's because, one, they're not at that level yet, but they also pay attention to all of the people that are, so many people that are able to do that, or they're intimidated by it or whatever, and they focus on that so much that it makes this other thing look huge, right? 500 pounds to me was like another stepping stone to 600 pounds, and that's a stepping stone to even more. But I looked at it like this is just the next step, and this is not a lot of weight, just because I knew that there were people in the world. I'm in a health club. Being the strongest at a health club is not like amazing at all. So my point there is the fact that I was consciously ignorant of what was possible, so that doing 500 was not that big of a deal. If that makes sense. What's up, Yuri? So going along with that, I've noticed, just going back, using powerlifting as an analogy, another analogy is, I see a lot of people, I've seen this in other sports too, in rodeo and other things like that, people get so in their head about what's possible and how difficult things can be because they pay attention to what everybody else is doing. I have no idea who's in my weight class. I used to know a couple names of people. I probably need to pay attention a little bit more to that, but I know what the national deadlift record is, unless it's changed. It's 639. My goal is a 300 kilo deadlift, which would blow that out of the water. But that's the only thing I know, is it's 639. I don't know the guy's name. I saw it, but why waste brain power on things that are unnecessary and not needed to make you, like knowing this person's name or that person's name or this person's stats or that person's stats, who cares? If you're following their training or some nutrition or whatever else, cool. Pay attention to that. That's actually useful. But if you're so I'm consciously looking for things that are actually going to be beneficial, and that's where the conscious ignorance. I totally purposefully do not pay attention to things that are not going to upgrade what I'm doing. So that's what conscious ignorance is. The other thing is the having nerdy friends. And the reason and this is going to get into a little bit of the whole fitnessy, nutrition-y thing stuff too, and conscious ignorance at the same time. The biggest thing about having nerdy friends is, if you are not nerdy, or you do not like finding out and discovering new information on your own, and you just like being fed that information, your nerdy friends can provide that. Because when you tell me something, I geek out on it. I'm like, whoa, really? What? Or if somebody posts something that is different than what I think is either true or true for me or whatever, I will go read about it and then find the opposite viewpoint or the opposite studies and compare those and see what the data is saying, and see what experience I have had with it, and then weigh that instead of just taking what's put out there as gospel set in stone. I've mentioned this in other ones too, but this gets into cognitive bias. I'm going to get nerdy here for a minute. Cognitive bias and fitness professionals on the internet that are posting things. I've seen people, and it drives me crazy, posting things like, here's a healthy alternative, healthy low carb alternative. And then I've literally seen pictures of, like, they'll take a picture of this so-called healthy alternative low carb something or other, and it's got the ingredients right there, and I'm like, not one of those ingredients is actually something that's actually a real food. I have a healthy alternative, carb alternative for you. It's called a carrot. I mean, seriously. The other one too is when fitness professionals or even pro athletes post scientific data and they don't post both sides of it. And that's where the cognitive bias comes in. What a cognitive bias is specifically confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is basically confirming your own viewpoint. So it's like when you buy a new car. You never really saw that car around much before, but you just bought this new car, and now you're driving around and you're like, there's one there, and there's one there, and there's one there. They're everywhere. And the day before, you didn't see them at all. Confirmation bias is, oh, I believe this, and look, I found a study that confirms my bias, my beliefs, my way of looking at it, and I'm going to post this. The problem is, the people that don't post opposing viewpoints get their followers to believe that that is the way it is. I saw something about an ingredient in I'm not going to get too much detail, but there was an ingredient that's very controversial. I believe it's really bad for you. This post said, here's a study showing that it's not bad for you. I'm like, great. You just confirmed your own bias and basically gave all of your followers permission to eat this thing, to ingest this thing that does have studies that show that it's not safe. So instead of giving all the information and letting people make an informed decision, many times people will post their confirmation bias, the information they found that confirms the way they think, to validate the way they're doing what they're doing. And that's where the nerdy friends come in, because when I saw that, I was like, what? So I went and looked, and I'm like, huh, that's a valid study. Cool. What about the 43 other valid studies that are out there saying it's not good? Pretty much, maybe not 100% of the time, but if you post a study on something, I will find a study that says the opposite. A legitimate study. Some double-blind placebo test in a controlled environment and all this other whatever. So if you're going to post information or you're going to share information with people, share the good and the good, right? They're both good, depending on what your bias is. The thing that the confirmation bias leads into by those quote-unquote professionals is what happens. A lot of these people on social media and whatever, famous people, etc., there's an effect, there's something called a halo effect. And what the halo effect is, it's basically when you see somebody that's prominent, famous, pretty, studly, handsome, whatever, and they say something, you're more likely to take that as the truth than if somebody that did not have any status and did not have any followers and did not look all pretty and handsome and whatever else. You're more likely to take the pretty person's and the person with all the status, their view, over somebody that doesn't have all of that, even if it's not right. There's stuff out there all over the place. Here's an example. You ever seen somebody in an ad leaning up against a Lamborghini? First thing you think, wow, they must be really successful. Either that or they went and rented it for the day and they took a picture and then they know how to market it so that it looks like they are. It's about perspective and awareness. and asking questions. Be a 5-year-old. One, it's fun. It's really fun. You get to just play, right? But other than that, ask why. Why? 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 Ad nauseum. And if you ask yourself why enough times, eventually you'll come to a conclusion that may be just a conclusion that you came to, but it's a conclusion based on all of the whys that you asked. Why does that work? Why is that way? Think about that for a minute. Because I don't have a lot else to talk about. That was basically, I was going to talk about my the fun with my nerve issue in my calf, and I'm still going to do that. You don't want to miss that episode because one, it's kind of an interesting story, and the other thing is it will teach you a little bit about focus and discipline and perseverance and all of that. Not really fun in a fun way, but in a way it'll make you go, wow, I'm glad that didn't happen to me. Because you will. And I'll be doing an interview with my buddy Spence, that did work on this leg and got me back well beyond where I was. I'm still not fixed completely. I'm going back to see him actually in a couple of weeks. So with that said, this worked out pretty well. 22 minutes. I need to go a little bit longer because I need to end on an odd number because I don't like even numbers. Even though sometimes I think I end on an even number. So it looks like Yuri, you still here? Any questions? Quick recap. Conscious ignorance. Pay attention to what you pay attention to. I said this last night or the night before. Pay attention to what you pay attention to, because what you pay attention to grows, and you will realize that certain things you don't need to pay attention to, and certain things you do need to pay attention to make faster progress. Knowing who this famous person is, or this famous person is, or this superstar athlete or this superstar athlete is, isn't going to make one bit of difference. Just knowing who they are and just following them to follow them and see how awesome they are. What's the purpose in what you're doing? Why? Why is it important to follow certain people? Awesome, Yuri. I'm glad I can count on you. I don't have a lot of people coming on yet, so spread the word. Like I keep forgetting to say on some of these episodes, if you're enjoying this, like it, share it. Over on YouTube also, I don't know, Yuri, if you know the YouTube or not. I'll post the link. I don't have it super handy. I should just get it handy and put it in there, but I'll post the link here to the YouTube channel. And like I said, eventually I'm going to get all the audio ripped out of these. I'm going to start putting them on podcast sites too, so that you don't have to be on here or YouTube. So that'll be fun. Quick ending note. If we want to tie this all back into sleep, is what's your confirmation bias, your cognitive bias? And there's a lot of cognitive biases, by the way. I just pulled 2 out. There's probably there's over 100. It's crazy. But what's your bias when it comes to sleep? Do you think it's difficult? Because if you do, then it is. Do you think that you can't get a good night's sleep? Do you think that you need sleep medication or whatever? And sometimes, I mean, I'm not going to say, I'm not a doctor, so I should preface everything with that. But I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on the internet. But what is your bias when it comes to anything you do in life? And once you are aware of that and paying attention to that, are you looking at the other side and comparing the two so that you have a good overall knowledge and you can make an informed decision? It's all about being informed. If you're making a decision based on one person's bias, then that's not an informed decision. You're just following the herd. I find it fascinating how many people nowadays are like, like all about not following the herd and not being individuals and whatever else. And then they see one post about, I don't know, politics or about nutrition or about fitness or anything, sleep. And they're like, oh, yep, there it is. It says right there, you need to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Travis, you need more sleep. Okay, I'll get more sleep. You come over to my place after I've gotten more sleep and see you can have a conversation with angry Travis. Angry, lethargic, really dumb in the head Travis. So with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. And sweet, thanks for the share, Yuri. Hey, let me know how your training is going. I'm going to wrap this up, though, because we can chat about that whenever. And if you have any questions or whatever, post them here. And if you have any ideas, any questions that are something that you want to learn about as far as an episode that I'm going to do, that I can do, on anything, upgrading anything mentally or physically, let me know that also. And with that said, make it an amazing day, because it's better than the alternative.